Hello and welcome back to On Purpose Living. Today we want to continue talking about balanced health and looking at the areas of heart, soul, mind, and strength. So if you've not already done so, I hope that you will take an opportunity to take my free overall health assessment. It's just an exercise to get you thinking about kind of your overall health in the four areas when we think about loving the Lord our God with heart, soul, mind, and strength. So today we're really going to be focusing on emotional health, or more specifically, relationships. So what I would like to do in this video is talk about 5 considerations that I think are important for us as we think about having strong relationships in 2021 and beyond. So basically 5 tips that we really need to, or 5 questions, I guess, that we can ask ourselves when it comes to our relationships to see if we are experiencing strong, healthy relationships in our life. So let's get started with those 5 considerations for strong relationships in 2021. The first thing is very simple. Who do you spend your time with? I love what Jim Rohn says when he talks about that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And for some of us, we get to choose who those 5 people are, but for others of us, it may be people that we work with, or it may even be family members that aren't always the healthiest folks for us to spend as much time with as we do. So what I would really like for you to give thought to or to think about is, what are those relationships like? So when you think about your emotional health, are you struggling because those relationships are not great relationships, because they are relationships that really kind of drain the life out of you? I love the book Start With Your People by Dixon, and it's more of a kind of a business promotion marketing type of book, but in that he talks about that we all have what we would call growth friends, which are friends that really build us up. They're there for us. They're cheering when we win. They want us to succeed and want us to do well. And then we have those broken wing friends. And those are friends that may intentionally or may not intentionally just really kind of bring us down. So they're not always the encouragers. They're usually the ones that are going to tell us why things that we are dreaming about won't work. And so we all have those folks in our lives. So what we want to do when we're giving consideration to strong, healthy relationships is we want to spend time with those people that help us to feel better when we walk away from them. Not that that's their only job. We do need accountability. We need friends that'll be truthful to us. I don't mean that we want people that will just puff us up and tell us things that aren't true, but we do want to be around people that charge us emotionally, that help us to feel better about things. So I want you to think about who those people are that you're spending your time with. And remember, you can't control the behavior of other people, but you can always control your reaction to how they behave. So if those people are stirring you up, then maybe it's time to take a step back, look at kind of those friendships and look at some boundaries around how you can do better being with people that are going to leave you feeling emotionally stronger and emotionally healthier. So the second thing I would say is, I think diversity in our relationships is really important. And I've always cautioned against, and it's more true now than ever, really only having relationships or being friends with people who look like you, think like you, act like you, talk like you. That's great, and it's usually really comfortable. But I think that we grow and we challenge ourselves when we allow ourselves to be friends with people who may not believe exactly what we believe, or look exactly like we look, or maybe even have the same background that we have had. I think that really opens us up to being able to be more empathetic, to see perspectives from other sides. And by this, I mean that you don't want to build false relationships or fake relationships with people that you don't get along with, or that you obviously don't have anything in common with. But what it does mean is that you guys allow one another to ask those hard questions. You don't feel like you're going to be embarrassed or you're going to insult them if you talk about something that you may not have any information about and it's not in your wheelhouse, and that they may know a whole lot more about. And we need those people in our life that we know, we like, we trust, that we can ask some of those difficult questions. And that's how we're going to grow. So honest, vulnerable friendships really grow out of being able to let our guard down, be in those situations where we can make a fool out of ourselves, and everyone in the relationship is going to assume good intentions because they know what our heart is. And so make sure that you have those relationships that are diverse, that you've got friendships with people that are different from you in a lot of different ways. I think that's a really healthy thing to think about. The third thing I would say is, how well do you know yourself? Most of you that know me very well know I love the Enneagram. And the reason that I love the Enneagram is because I think that a self-awareness tool is so helpful with relationships. I think once we can understand our own motives, our own why behind a lot of the things that we think, feel, and do, then we are much more likely to be able to develop deeper relationships and to see areas where we struggle or we may be difficult to get along with. And by the same token, I think that understanding others and kind of their personality types and things that make them, how they think, feel, and behave, the motives behind those things, it's important for us to learn. So I think that anytime that we can give ourselves an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, not so that we can reflect on ourselves or make excuses about our behavior or even become self-loving, that is never the intention or the reason behind learning more about ourselves through self-tools like the Enneagram. But it's so that we can grow, so that we can see those places where we stumble, or maybe even those blind spots that we all have kind of had in our life that we really did not even realize were there. And so I have a lot of resources for the Enneagram. In fact, I offer a course that you can download right off of my website, and I'll link that information below as well. That's just an introduction to the Enneagram course if you'd like to take that and learn more about it. But I'll be sure to give you other resources as well where you can learn more about the Enneagram and find out a little bit more about yourself. The fourth thing that I would say when we're talking about relationships and strengthening them and having healthy relationships is, do you give more than you take? And so I think sometimes we go into relationships, and again, even depending on our personality, some of us are more natural givers, and we may give to a fault. We may give to an extreme, and that's not a healthy relationship. Others of us may take more than we give. It may be different with different relationships, depending on what that relationship might be. But it's important that in a relationship that there's an equal amount of give and take, that there's an equal amount of sharing of yourself. Again, if you want to be in relationships with people that are deep relationships, sometimes you're going to have to open yourself up to vulnerability. You're going to have to let your guard down. And so I think that that's really important as well. I love what I've heard, which is be authentic with everyone, but be vulnerable with few. So are you willing to give a lot of yourself in a relationship, to let your guard down, to let those people that you love know what you need from them? And then at the same time, are you willing to give as much as you take? And so I think that's an important thing for us to think about when we're talking about healthy relationships, is that you don't always want to be the giver, but you also don't always want to be the taker. You want it to be kind of a give and take type of relationship. And then lastly, are you even open to new relationships? In my coaching practice, so often I talk to women mostly, because that's mostly who I coach, that are longing for either friendships or romantic relationships. And then the more we talk and the more we explore, I begin to realize that they're not open to those new relationships, that it is hard to become friends. It is hard to begin dating someone because that newness is scary. It's very vulnerable to kind of give ourselves to new people that we don't know yet or we don't trust. And so that's not something that happens quickly or easily. It's not something that can be forced. Most really good relationships grow over time, and they grow very organically and authentically, just out of having things in common or being in close proximity to one another. And so I would ask, as you're going through your life, are you even open to new relationships? Are you very guarded? Are you spending time alone? I love what I heard a pastor say one time. He was sharing a message with young believers or young people. And he said, if you want to catch a fish, you have to go to a pond. And what he was referring to is making sure that if you're hanging out in places where you would never want your spouse to come from that place, then that's probably what you're going to attract. But if you want to attract people that are like-minded and have things in common with you and may share the same values and beliefs as you, then think about where it is that you're going to find those folks. I would say, again, as women, one of the best things that we can do is to foster community or to foster relationships is to serve alongside other women, be a part of small group Bible studies, small group life groups at a lot of churches or Sunday school classes. Like being a part of that, just kind of a natural setting where you come together and you share your thoughts, your ideas, your prayer requests, what's on your heart, that is going to naturally make some of those friendships grow and for you to meet those people that you may feel like you're longing for in your life. So I think it's really important that you are open-handed right now, that you're praying about, if that's something that you truly want, is for God to bring some new relationships into your life, some new friendships, then pray about those first and foremost, but then be willing to open your eyes and look around and see those relationships that He may be bringing into your life that you don't even realize. So be open to settings, put yourself out there. Again, if you want to catch a fish, go to a pond. Make sure you're putting yourself in situations where you can begin to develop some new relationships if that's something that you're longing for. So again, just to review, first of all, think about who do you spend your time with and what kind of relationships are those? Secondly, think about, are you spending your time with people that think and feel and look differently from you? Are your relationships diverse? Thirdly, how well do you know yourself? And that's very important that you develop self-awareness and that you use that information to grow. Fourthly, are you a giver or a taker? Are you too much of one or the other? Are you equal in relationships and are they balanced? And lastly, are you open to new relationships? If you are longing for new friendships, longing for a romantic relationship, are you even open to those things? So those are just 5 considerations that I feel like are important as you head into this new year, thinking about your emotional or relational health. And lastly, I would say, just remember in all relationships to forgive easily, to give grace because you've been given grace. So often relationships fall apart over grudges or things that just really in the big grand scheme of things are not nearly as important as they seem in the moment. So I would encourage you to think about, especially in our heated political climate right now, just in our culture, is what you're saying or doing worth losing that relationship over? Or is it something that you want to maintain that relationship above and beyond how strongly you might feel about an issue? And so I would really encourage all of us to think about being more forgiving, sharing with more grace, and remembering that we give grace and we love because that's what we've been given. And so as you think about your relationships and you think about your emotional health, I would want us to give pause to that as well. So I will again link the assessment below if you've not yet taken that and you want to do that, just to give you an idea of kind of how you're scoring in all 4 of the areas. And you can look forward to a new video coming soon to look at the next area of your overall health. And then also, if you're interested in that Introduction to an Enneagram course, I'll link that information as well. And you can find that on my website if that's something that you would like to find more out about, is the Enneagram. Or I do private typing sessions as well. So if you'd like to sign up for a private Enneagram typing session, I'll be glad to share that with you as well, and you can contact me for that. So I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. I thank you for spending the time with me today to think